Hello and welcome everyone again to another look at an awesome car. Today, here we have my Acura 2012 Acura TSX Sport Wagon. And today we're going to ask ourselves, what was Acura thinking when they were speccing out this car? It's an awesome car. It's typically the Sport Wagon, but they added no sportiness in it. Looking at the exterior of this wagon, we have a 16-foot wide chassis, about 6 feet wide, and about just a little under 5 feet tall. And that's the wagon. You can fit almost anything in this car. But this isn't just the TSX wagon. This is the TSX Sport Wagon, and that's the main problem. In this car, we have a K24 Z3, which makes approximately 200 horsepower and just a little bit over 160 pound-feet of torque. But why did they not put that legendary V6 that Honda would put in the sedan form of this car, or when they even put in the manual transmission? Acura's sitting there like, let's make a sport wagon for enthusiasts, and then they left out the two things that enthusiasts want: power and a manual transmission. Moving back to front here, let's take a look at the interior of the car. Right here, so you have your big, wide, about 33 cubic feet of storage space here, with additional little cubbies on the left and right noted here, and a big spot that your spare tire would normally go, but this car didn't come with a spare tire. I think that's kind of funny because I like to imagine someone sitting on the side of the road, their tire's like shrapnel on the side, and they're just like picking up the pieces trying to like stitch it back together. But again, as mentioned earlier, you have about 33 cubic feet of storage, but if you fold down those rear seats, you nearly double it to about 60 square feet of storage. In addition, you do have a subwoofer. I have a bigger subwoofer because I'm a dude and I'm a kid, so why not have big sound? Moving on to the back seats, as you can see, I'm cramped in this tight back seat. You know, you'd think as a wagon they put emphasis on some passenger comfort. Again, I'm a 6'3" grown adult, and I can't even fit in the back seat with my normal seating position. But I will say, this was previously my mom's car, and she had taken us all the way up to Virginia, back to Florida many times, and it was fairly comfortable. So for large adults, for small children, side of this car, you're going to be sitting quite low compared to other cars. You're sitting into the car a lot more. You have a black interior with a black leather steering wheel. Looking at the gauges, you have, again, black analog gauges. This is the early 2010s, so you don't really get any digital gauges in lower level cars. But those gauges are wrapped in silver and are very, very nice. I will say it is kind of fun to see them kind of jumping up and moving all around. Moving on to the infotainment, you do have a screen that will display all of your music and sat-nav information. Down you have your head unit, which again has Bluetooth. You can connect to your phone, and if you have Apple Music, you can use the infotainment unit to scroll through your Apple Music, which is kind of odd because you can't do that with Spotify. Moving on over to your HVAC system, you have all physical buttons for everything in a dual climate zone. Next, you have your two little pockets for any kind of storage unit. You have heated seats and your cup holders, which can fit a normal, typical size cup. Let's get some sound from that K24. All right, now that we're inside this Acura TSX Sport Wagon, let's put our seatbelts on and go for a drive. Putting it into drive, you can tell the low speed maneuver. You have a foot off the accelerator, and you're just kind of cruising along at about 6 miles an hour. Kind of low speed maneuvering. You have about 2.5 turns lock to lock. We'll go ahead and move here. The brakes, I prefer these brakes to most people. Again, that Golf, I've talked with the owner, he's my buddy, and he's like, your brakes are garbage. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not like immediate. Going with your throttle input, I've heard people say that it is fairly jolty. So that first little bit is kind of jolty, but you kind of get used to it and you can learn to drive smoothly with it. Being it is longer, it's not as easy to maneuver around as a smart car, but it's also easier than a Tahoe or something like that. But cruising along here on the famous Auburn Interstate Highway, Super Autobahn, or whatever I called it in that last video, we can note that the cruising performance of the car is very, very comfortable. These seats are very comfortable. The suspension is fairly soft. The only issue that I do have, and I don't know if it's with this tires or with the general car, but it is a noisier than normal interior. I'll find after I take a long drive, I'm like, oh, my ears they're just like, ugh, they're fuzzy. But that's really the biggest complaint about this car. that I have for now. Again, as we're cruising along here, another note I'd like to make is the blind spots in this car. The C-pillar of this car, there's a little porthole that looks about this big, and from my driving position, it gets caught in, like, your shoulder and the headrest get caught in this blind spot area. I don't know if you saw real quick behind me, but nonetheless. Another concern about kind of cruising performance is that this car at higher speeds, so you're thinking 70, even 75, when you're trying to pass someone, you got to go full out just to kind of let the car get moving a little bit, which is an issue. But at the same time, and you still get an inline 4 naturally aspirated car, which is a rarity these days, which is quite funny. Moving along here, let's put this sucker in sport mode and let's get a moving here. Let's get a moving. We have it in sport mode. It really doesn't change much, but the fact that you can shift your own gears, which is like any other Honda, Triptronic, any kind of thing. It's more of a suggestion than a command. You go shift and it goes, okay. So, but moving here into this little turn, putting on the brakes, looking into the turn, it does have a pretty significant amount of body roll, but relatively it handles itself fine. Even though it does have some form of body roll, it does have grip. That's due to the double wishbone suspension, which allows those tires to maintain level the entire time throughout that turn, which is the benefit of this car. And that's all we have today, folks. Before I conclude this video, I'd like to just make a few key points. While this is an amazing family car, Acura kind of missed the mark when it came to the sport of that sport wagon sector. Even though it handles relatively well, especially for its weight, that engine is just lackluster, and it needs to have a 6-speed manual transmission. Outside of that, this car does have 140,000 miles, so it's starting to get to that point where things are starting to break. But other than that, me and my family have had zero issues with this car, putting on many miles on it for many years. Again, Acura, please make a Honda Civic wagon. A Honda Civic SI wagon would be so awesome. Thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.